Another important topic related to population proportions is the sample size. So you may have very wide population from which you can do the sampling, but of course to minimize resources, use of resources and the costs, you would like to take as small sample as needed in order to get specific accuracy of your result. So the sample size n affects the precision of the inference that can be made about the population proportion. And it is often useful to gauge the amount of precision afforded by a certain sample size before any sampling is performed. And after the results of initial sample are observed, it may be useful to determine how much additional sampling is required to attain specific precision. Now, if a confidence level is 1 minus alpha that we use in a specific test, then the confidence interval length is, if we denote it as L, then it's twice this formula, so twice critical value times the standard error. So the sample size n required to achieve confidence interval length L is then given by this formula. We don't have to do anything else other than flip this around. So then, if we know the width of the confidence interval that we would like to have, so for instance, if you would like to have a proportion plus minus 1%, then the length of the confidence interval would be twice 0.01, because of course it's plus minus. And then the critical value you know, because you know with what confidence you would like specific width of the interval, and then you have the population proportion. Now, if you have some rough estimate on the population proportion that you're dealing with, so you can plug that number in here. But if you don't, then you can consider the worst case scenario, because after all, this function p, 1 minus p, is a quadratic formula, which goes from 0 to 1, and it has maximum here around the place where p is 1/2. So that means that in the end, the maximal value of this is if you just consider that population proportion is 1/2. In case you know it's not 1/2, it's something more or less, then you can improve your situation and you will end up having a bit smaller population proportion and you will have a bit smaller requirement on the sample size. But if you cannot safely assume that population proportion, then just take the worst case scenario, then you will have the upper limit for n.